Gordon Dundas, this is episode 2. Can you hear? We've got sound effects in the background.
Yeah, we're not in the Edinburgh today.
We've went East Coast episode 1. Where are we for episode 2? Well, everybody knows because it's in the title of the show. But where are we?
We're at Glengoyne Distillery.
Oh, we've decided just to pitch up and roll into town, roll into, where one of our brands where it all began.
Absolutely, and I have just spent a lot of time listening to the brand plan this morning. I'm totally up to date with the future of this brand.
Oh, right. So there is a future.
There's an absolutely very, very rosy future for this wonderful whisky. So we're standing at the back of, for those who've been to Glengoyne, we're standing at the old historical water source right at the back of the Valley of the Wild Geese. And to be honest, it's a bit of a trickle.
Yeah, it's not much water today.
It's not a lot. It's been a very dry summer in Scotland, and we're, literally there's like a man with the top or a lady holding a bucket, throwing it down. There's really not a lot of water.
No, that's why we don't get all the water from that area. We actually bring in other water because you couldn't have a shower in that, let alone run a distillery.
No, we get our water from Loch Carron, which is about sort of 10-15 miles away from here. And that gives us the amount of water that we need, whereas this would be totally unreliable. And the distillery, with this current amount of water, if this was our water supply, we'd be not producing. So,
Gordon, I'm getting excited because when you come to a distillery, when you leave your house, you bump into people. You don't bump into people in your kitchen on a Teams meeting. No, but we've just bumped into someone.
We have
a friend of the show from series 2, I think he was.
We have the man who produces the glass, the wonderful, wonderful glass, Mr. Davidson
of the Glencairn.
Absolutely,
glass.
and
full
of the joys of spring, and really happy to be out and about because he loves his music.
He's away to see the bluebells. Gordon decided to print up some facts about Glengoyne before we go to the theme music. Would that be the expression?
Have we got theme music? Have we paid for that?
Well, Dave or Carrie said we could until he busts us.
Send him another bottle.
1833 all goes live here, Gordon.
It does.
1867, 68, 69, late 1860s, the trains arrive.
Yeah,
not bad.
Absolutely.
But I love the fact that in 2017 we were the whisky for the Oscars. The Glengoyne 10 was in the goodie bag for the Oscars. I've got a whole list of important facts, but I love the Oscars.
That's unbelievable. What a great fact that is.
I think it's time to cue the
music.
Cue the music.
Cue the music.
Welcome
to episode 2
on the Whisky Trail.
Yep, Gordon, we're in the shop.
We're in the shop. And we're with, what's your name, sir?
Malcolm.
Malcolm, what brought you to Glengoyne today?
I've been a regular visitor here for about 10-15 years now. We have a week's holiday up here and it's just a nice place to come.
And so you're taking away a couple of lovely whiskies there.
Oh, lovely.
The 18-year-old and the Legacy
Legacy
Series Chapter 2 and some glasses.
Yes, some glasses which my son's very carefully looking after for
See,
me.
that's the difference between a good holiday and a very good holiday. Is that right? Will they be consumed on holiday or is that presents?
No, these are for home and presents for my father-in-law.
Fabulous. And did you have a tour or did you just come to the shop?
No tour this time.
But you've been before?
Yes.
And a bit of a Glengoyne fan?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Give us a favourite. We're going to have a wee look around some of the whiskies right now. What's your go-to?
We don't sell it anymore. The 17-year-old was the best.
You like the 17?
I did.
I think the 18's better.
Do you? Well, I disagree, you
good
see.
Discussion. Good discussion.
Thank you.
Enjoy the holiday.
No problem.
Enjoy the holiday. Cheers.
There's lots of whiskies in this shop, but you've went straight to what we used to call the pour your own, but the cask of the moment.
The distillery cask, yeah. So this is it's one cask. When it's gone, it's gone. This particular one at the moment here at Glengoyne is a 2010, distilled 17th of November 2010. Wow. This is a Paulo Cortado cask.
Now, hang on. Was that the centre forward for Real Madrid that year? No. Who is Paulo Cortado?
Paulo Cortado is a type of sherry that starts off in a Fino form and then actually evolves more into an Oloroso form because of the lack of floor naturally. So a very rare sherry, 1822 cask number, only I think about 250, 300 bottles, 55.5%. And what is the colour of that?
What's that colour? That's deep.
It's an absolute beauty.
Deep, lovely golden. Deep golden colour.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the whole time of maturation is in a Paulo Cortado. It's not finished for 6 months.
No, full maturation.
Wow.
So a fantastic limited edition. Not many left, I hear. It's not a sales pitch, but not many left.
Oh, right. That's why it's still in your hand there, Gordon. So you can get lost. I love whisky shops, but this is obviously specifically for Glengoyne and the Glengoyne home, but you've come across something else. What are you looking at?
Well, I'm looking at a Glengoyne 50-year-old.
50?
Yeah, an absolutely beautiful whisky. 50 plus years in casks, and really just amazing. And yeah, I mean, I've only got myself a couple of them, obviously.
And I don't have my glasses on, Gordon, but it seems a lot of zeros there.
£22,500, but 50 years. It's under. I mean, it's £500 a year. It's not a lot.
We've talked about this before, but there's an exclusive club of the 50-year-old, isn't there?
About 15 distilleries who've had a 50-year-old before. So Glengoyne has now entered that club, and we're very excited by this. So, but I mean, what's great about this wonderful whisky, as is all of our whiskies, but whether you drink a 10-year-old or a 30-year-old, the cask quality throughout everything, or a 50, is fabulous, and that's what makes us, I think, so different, along with that spirit that we've spoken about on here before.
Oh, we love it, Gordon. But after 50 years, though, you've got that chance that the wood would overpower the spirit and it'd be like chewing a pencil.
Absolutely.
That's what you've got to worry about, isn't it? But
no, but it's been done with balancing it off in terms of how you mature it, so you get the best possible whiskey. Great colour, great whiskey. Fabulous whiskey. I've had a little sample.
Oh, come on! What?
I've had a little sample of it.
I didn't get that memo.
Well, no, I mean, it was odd. I was eating hula hoops at the time, but I just got given some. It was great. No, lovely, lovely whiskey. So
that's great. Is that your oldest? I've never drank a 50.
Oh, I've drunk a 50 before.
Right, okay. I've never drank a 50.
What's the oldest whiskey you've drunk?
That's a very good question.
Because it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best.
A great debate.
Yeah,
a great debate. Yeah, exactly. I think a 30-year-old maybe for myself. But that's a very good debate if you're listening to this Whisky Unscripted. Gordon, where are we going next? Now we have relocated to the office. What poor fool. I mean, whose office are we in?
We're in DCI Arnott's office.
We're in at the I think the person that's in charge of Glengoyne's office. We are. And there is a lovely gantry of whisky behind us.
There is. So I think this used to be Stuart Henry's office.
Yes.
In this office there is simply an amazing array of old Glengoynes. And I've just pulled one off the shelf to discuss. Nice. It is unfortunately closed, so we can't drink it. Okay. But this is Billy's Choice, an 18-year-old. Distilled on the 6th of July 1989, bottled September 2007. Billy retired how long ago?
That was 2018.
So about 3 years ago. Now this, obviously an Amontillado hogshead. Nice. And quite simply, it is Coca-Cola.
Yeah, it's really dark. Really dark.
And
what happened with this range of whiskies was the production operatives and all the people who were making the whiskey, including Billy, chose a cask that they could be bottled. So Ewan's choice, Duncan's choice, Billy's choice. That's a really popular range of whiskies. Really nice idea, and that looks lovely.
Absolutely beautiful. So just pulled that off the shelf. That's good. Talk about that. What are you drinking today?
Oh, well, I tell you what, I'm going to because I know what you're talking about. I have got a little. I know we're in Glengoyne, which is the opposite of smoke, but I have got a lovely little Kalila.
Ah, a nice Kalila.
Which will explain, because you've been somewhere last week.
We'll explain a bit about that, yeah.
So what have you been drinking?
Well, I'm just going to find a glass actually, but I am going to tuck into this shelf. I'm not going to have Billy's Choice because it's a little bit, it's not open, but I can see a teapot dram there, maybe from 2 or 3 years ago. I might have a wee teapot dram, which is maybe synonymous with the place that we are.
Put a photograph of that shelf up on our Facebook. That'd be quite nice. That would be very nice. Gordon, lots of nice comments coming from our trip to Edinburgh. A lot of people caught the little video we did on YouTube about the Johnny Walker experience. That seems to have gone down quite well. That was a nice trip, was it not?
It was a great trip out. That was very nice.
And I have done a couple of live shows since then.
Yes, you have.
I've been out on the roads. So this is, if you've never come across Whisky Unscripted, we are whisky ambassadors. You're more global in your reach, the global brand ambassador. And I'll do something in the UK. But yes, a couple of shows in Edinburgh, which is lovely.
You get let out in Europe occasionally.
Yes, when they let me.
Yeah.
But that was lovely to be in a room with live people. Well, they were when I started. Live people. and a whisky night.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
did they enjoy it, or were they?
Great, no.
Did you pay them to be there?
Great fun. No, they were free of paid to get out, right enough. But it was the Glengoyne storytelling experience in Edinburgh, and then we did a lovely one at the Cask and Barrel, which I've said to the people that were there, I would give them a wee shout out on this episode. So that's quite nice. Our news, Gordon, what have you been up to?
Well, I was on holiday last week, so this is why we're a little bit late with this second episode. But I was on the island of Isla. So you and your Isla, I was there for a holiday. Didn't over whiskey myself. Didn't go into. Didn't have a tour because most of the distilleries are not doing tours on Isla. But cycled past them, drove past lots of them. But it was great to be on the island of Peat.
Well, what I'd like to do after we look at the whisky news is. I don't off the top of your head, it is unscripted. Could you put together the Listillery, which is distillery with an L, Gordon Dundas Listillery, which is sort of a list of the places you might go in Isla if you wanted to take a trip there, and maybe what whiskies you would have there. So, could you try and do that at the same time? I've tasked you, as I do every week, to look at the whisky news, anything that comes your way. What has tickled your fancy? And this has been recorded in the first week of September 2021.
Well, let's start with a little bit of just going back to what we did in the first episode. For those who want to know, the Johnny Walker Experience opens on September the 6th. So I know that we're going to go and have a look at what they're going to do and how they're going to do 4 floors of whisky storytelling, I think, which will be great from our perspective. So I'm really looking forward to that. The other thing, a couple of other things.
Could just stop you there, Gordon? Yeah. I believe there might be, I think I've heard, a lovely rooftop terrace, stroke bar that you can look up Lothian Roads, and that will be very nice if that's the case.
Well, absolutely love to drink some Johnny Walker up there. That sounds great.
We'll definitely try and do there. Might sneak the recording devices in. But carry on. So Johnny Walker, 6th of September.
Yes, I think another couple of things going on. So our friends at Gordon and MacPhail, who obviously have Ben Romuth Distillery and are distributors in the UK, and they are, they're independent bottlers, and they really are a bit like Ian McLeod to a certain extent. They're kingpin of the industry. They are releasing an 80-year-old whiskey. Is that not correct?
80-year-old whiskey. That's right. And this is now recorded on the 2nd of September. If you go to Gordon and MacPhail's website, I was there this morning. There was a countdown, and I think it was just after 12 o'clock.
Did you get a bottle?
It wasn't on sale yet. So
right.
They're going to show you the decanter that it comes in, an award-winning architect they're working with as well. So it's supposed to look phenomenal. And I don't know how many are limited.
Well, I would imagine 80 years, quite a lot of it has gone to the Angels. So
wow, 80
I'm
years
not sure
old.
how many bottles there are, but that's fabulous, and good luck to them with that.
That is officially the oldest.
I think it's the oldest
bottled
ever whiskey. I think, because I think
because you can get old whiskey, from 1930s, but it was bottled in the 1940s.
Yes.
So you can get old bottles.
Yes.
But this one has matured for 80 years.
Yeah, and
could you just explain, Gordon, with a 2% evaporation rate, that shouldn't be technically possible? Was that?
Well, I think the 2% evaporation rate will decrease over time as you lose volume. It's not necessarily as bad as that, or could increase. It depends on a lot of factors. But it's not 2%. It's roughly about 1, I think. But also the other thing is alcohol strength goes down. So, it's 44.9%. So that's actually pretty high for that could maybe even get to 90 if it wanted to, maybe with that strength left in it. But
you're losing roughly around 0.5% a year. Roughly?
Yeah, again, it depends from cask to cask. But but what was it filled at? And that doesn't mean to say. I've seen a 40-year-old whiskey at 58%. So there's no rhyme or reason to it. But if it filled it off the still strength, which it probably was back then, probably around about 70, then it's lost about 25% alcohol over that 80 years. But clearly a very good cask, and they've done very, very well. The other interesting fact, we were up in Tamdhu recently, drove past their new distillery, the Cairn, just north of just near Granton-on-Spey, and that's really coming on leaps and bounds. And
I drove past the stills over there, and they're building round the stills.
And they are,
Yes, so the Cairngorm National Park. So there's a discussion about how many distilleries it'll take before we start tipping.
Well, I think
Will
when
we
you get,
dip?
maybe. I mean, I think there are a lot of new distilleries in Scotland at the moment, and not all of them are going to succeed. That's the way it goes. But with the talent at Gordon MacPhail, the talent we've got with what's happening at Rosebank, I was at Rosebank on Tuesday, and if anybody's driving past Rosebank, or you're going to see a bit more footage of Rosebank, join the Rosebank Club to find out what's going on. But Rosebank's coming on, and with a view to producing spirit in June next year.
Wow. So the steel structure's up.
Steel structures are on. Stills are going in the next couple of months. So yeah, it's really moving on as well. So really, really encouraging.
Right, we'll have to try and get a note to selves. Try and get a little show about Rosebank. That was great. Gordon, this is a roundup of the news from early September 2021. Anything else that's caught your eye?
Yes, well, a friend of the show, James Campbell, has stepped down as the Spirit of Speyside chairman. So James, I know he's an avid listener. He sent us a couple of emails going, when is episode 4 going to start? Keen golfer as well, bit of a bandit, I hear, and clearly he's only going to get better in the coming months. George McNeil, who's the managing director of Johnson's of Elgin's retail division, has been appointed the chairman. So good luck to him. Johnson's of Elgin, another huge employer and another huge industry up there. That's fabulous to see that. And,
great. His first job will be the in-person festival. When is that?
I believe that's the early November, which... I mean, we had a discussion actually about it at Tamdhu, and it's not a great time of the year for a lot of reasons, in terms of in terms of weather, but also in terms of timing. It's a really busy time for a lot of people. So, but it'd be great to go and get a mini Speyside Whisky Festival off in November. Back with the main one in May, we hope.
Oh yeah, I hope so. That's very interesting. Again. Discussion of festivals, the Speyside, Spirit of Speyside, first one was 1999. Sometimes you think these have been on for 100 odd years. No, 1999 was the first Spirit of Speyside festival.
Was that what Prince was singing about?
Yes, going to party like the Spirit of Speyside Festival 1999. Yeah. And of course the highlight of the Speyside festivals is usually the gala dinner. And I believe there was a gentleman in 2018 did the gala dinner at the Speyside Fest. They're still talking about him to this very
There was. I think he did a thing called Whiskey Bingo, is that not correct?
Right.
Mr. Dallas, that went down a storm.
That's right. Brilliant. What else?
That's the news. That's the end of the news.
End of the news. Good stuff. You were going to try and put together a distillery for Isla. Is it still fresh in your mind? If someone was listening and you want to do the ultimate road trip, now you did this for, I think, the Highlands... in a previous episode, will give us the ultimate road trip.
Well, I mean, the key point with Isla is it's not very big, so you can do quite a lot in one day. We actually cycled round it and cycled from Bowmore to Portnahaven past Brookladdy, predominantly is the main distillery. It was the only distillery really on the way, which was shut, so we couldn't go in there. Drove past Kilhoman on the way to the one place you almost have to go, which is Machir Bay. Just stunning. We went there in sunrise, and it's a beach. If you didn't know, you could be in Greece, or just beautiful beach, which is on the west side of Isla. Next stop, Canada. So beautiful. So we drove past Kilhoman. I've never actually been to Kilhoman, so but I think what strikes you about Isla is that if you're on the south side of the island, you've got Ardbeg, Lagavulin, and Lafroig, and they're probably renowned as the most smoky whiskies. And so the south end of the island, if you're a big smoky fan, that's your distillery. That's where you need to go.
Give us one of the whiskies out of one of those three. Just one.
I think the two most famous ones. I mean, I'm a big Lafroig 10 and probably Lagavulin 16 are probably the two most famous. Ardbeg 10 as well. I mean, they're three of the sort of core range. Really are the centre of those brands. I think Lafroig famously sells more Lafroig 10 than any other whiskey by a long way, to a point that no other brand relies on one product as much as Lafroig does. But then you can go... I was staying in Bowmore. Why would you want to go to Bowmore and Bowmore Distillery? It's a beautiful distillery, but it is the second oldest distillery in Scotland. Wow. 1779. The oldest being... Glenturret in 1776, so it is the second oldest legal distillery, and that you forget. I mean, that's a good 44 years ahead of where we are here. Yeah. So In fact, 54 years. So quite a lot younger than or older, should I say, than Glengoyne. But much more the mid-level peatiness. Great range of whiskies as well. Great tour, great people. And then the lighter end, if you're into your lighter peaty
give us what Bowmore range, what age or what expression from Bowmore before we head off from there would be a nice recommendation.
I'm a big fan of their 15-year-old. It used to be called Darkest, so finished in sherry casks. So the 15's a cracker.
15's a cracker, right? Finally, we're heading up.
You're heading up to Isla, so you've got your Isla there.
Yeah, I do indeed. It's a Isla 12.
Isla 12. Isla's probably the oddest distillery. It's not the oddest, but it's a big distillery. But most of that is produced for Johnnie Walker, so most of that spirit goes off the island and is going to feed the experience in Edinburgh. It's all about a lot of that peated whiskey is needed for Johnnie Walker. But great whiskey. How is your Isla?
It's lovely. It is. It's a lovely. I'm just thinking of that Macaire Bay as I have a wee sip of this.
And then you've got Ardnahoe up that way, which is the new distillery from Hunter Lane. What makes that one a little bit different? It's got worm tub condensers.
Oh, very nice.
So a little bit different. Beautiful view of Jura from there, of the Paps. I love Paps. And then bit of a Renaissance part of Distell. Nice, generally lighter peated whiskey, but I think they do heavier peated versions as well.
And sold in the same year as Glengoyne.
Yeah, that's right.
It was an
Edrington. Part of the Edrington. So it was a sister of this distillery that we're sitting in at the moment.
So that would be 2 days, 3 days. You could do Isla.
I think you could do Isla if you want to have a couple of whiskies. 2 to 3 days.
Right, that's a fantastic. That is Gordon Dundas Listillery.
Not to mention,
an
of course,
addendum.
when the Calmac trip over, which is a unique trip.
How did it go?
It's fabulous. And just to say, because it's a bit of a legend that most people know, if you ever on a Calmac trip, you should have the macaroni and cheese. I refrained because I'm obviously watching my weight.
Okay, right, but it's something to have.
Something to have. It's
that's
part of the experience.
These are the details we need to know about mac and cheese on the ferry, and then do exactly what Gordon Dundas' trip suggests with those little drams as well. Gordon, that brings us neatly on just to put a little addendum to the Isla chat, and I have got a little challenge in a second, was I just thought a year that changed whiskey. And this expression, or this example, is the year that changed Isla. And I just thought we'll try and dust down this little section of the show, and I'd like to take you back to 1725, when the government of the day introduced the much hated malt tax. Now, in England, not so much malt consumed down there, so it was seen as very unfair for the beer makers and even whisky makers north of the border. So in 1725, there was riots in the streets. Riots in Edinburgh, and there was riots in Glasgow, but does it surprise you that in Glasgow they do that rioting just a little bit better? And they went along to the local MP's house, a Daniel Campbell, and they ransacked his house and burnt it to the ground. And I did a bit of research on this when Daniel Campbell of Shawfields was quite a character. And some say the house wasn't burned down. There was a mild amount of ransacking, but he got £10,000 in compensation from the city of Glasgow, really forced on by the British government. And it was quite a hell. And I never even mentioned, during the riots, there was 9 shot dead and 16 injured. This is how strongly the people felt of it. But he got 10 grand in compensation and purchased the island of
Isla.
Correct.
£10,000 in compensation back in 1725.
Must have been millions.
Must have been millions.
Times it with 10 or something, or a factor of 12. So he purchased the island of Isla after a few bits of negotiation with the previous. I'm not going into details, but he set about reformation of the lands, crop rotation. He replaced the old ancient strain of barley, the Bear, with modern strains of barley. And this led to excess grain. He brought in mining as well. So mining going on, excess grain going on, that started to become a distilling industry. Right. His grandson then continued the improvements, bringing to fruition the Bowmore village in the 1760s, which led to the distillery being built, as you said, in 1779. And the practice of distilling had become so widespread that after 50 years, I've got a quote here from the Reverend John McLeish of Kildonan. The Reverend John McLeish in 1777 says, and I quote Gordon, "We have not an excise officer on the whole island. The quantity of whisky made, therefore, is very great, and the evil that follows due to the excess of this liquor is very visible on the island." So the Reverend was not very happy about the booze getting consumed and getting made on the island of Isla. So that really, that purchase of Isla by Daniel Campbell kick-started the whisky movement as we know it, and his grandson started the Bowmore. So that really, rioting in 1725...
Over the malt tax. Now, one quick more bit of information. So the malt tax affected hugely, as we've heard. The Irish had a similar situation, weren't very happy with it. And this is what then created that type of whiskey you get in Ireland called single pot still or pure pot still whiskey, which is made with just barley and only a smaller amount of malted barley.
So there you go. People always ask, he says, dropping his glasses, the difference between Irish whiskies and Scotch whiskies, and John Cashman on a previous podcast has talked about that in great length, but it was a lot of times I say they can use unmalted barley in the mash bill, and that relates to the malt tax.
A lot of it does, yeah. They didn't want to pay the tax on malt, so they just started using unmalted barley. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So that was the year that changed whiskey. Now,
even in the background going, "This is rubbish."
We get that all the time, Gordon. Right, we've now moved to another part of the distillery because I'm after a challenge. Every so often we like to do challenges, Gordon. It was a 20-second hand wash challenge at the start of all this business. Remember
that was
those?
Only a year and a half ago.
Now we're talked about you going to Isla. I wrote a quiz. It took me almost half an hour, and 20 minutes of that was watching TV. It's called the Peat Challenge. Are you up for this?
Yeah.
Okay, I've tried to get some challengers.
Right.
Your name?
Amy.
Amy's going to challenge you. And your name?
Senga.
Senga is going to challenge you. I'm not sure that's a real name. And we've got your name?
Backward Agnes.
It's a deep voice.
Amy, what do you do at Glengoyne?
I am a distillery ambassador entertaining the guests at Glengoyne.
Okay, but right now, you are a challenger. You're going to take Gordon Dundas on head to head, Amy. And you've got backward Senga, he's going to leave, and you have so that's Agnes, and you've got Senga in the background. Okay, Gordon, there's a pizzeria in Isla called the Peat Zaria, and it's P-E-A-T, Zaria, Pizzeria. They've shoehorned Peat into the title.
Genius.
Okay, so that's roughly the level of this quiz. So here we go, Amy and Gordon Dundas. You go first, Gordon. Just give me the one-word answer. And Peat is in the answer, okay? So, just give me this. Now, I watch television all the time. I mean, they show the same programmes again and again. This programme's always on. Why do they always show...
A repeat.
Correct! Is the correct answer. Repeats. See what I did there? Peat is in the answer. Amy, it's 1-0 to Gordon Dundas.
This is highbrow, I told you this.
Okay. I like watching Olympics. Really enjoyed watching the Olympics and now the Paralympics. And one day, if I train hard enough, I might be able to...
Compete.
Yes! Compete in the games. It's one each. Gordon, you'll find the Winter Palace in this place. What's Russia's second largest city?
St. Petersburg.
Yes, 2-1 to Gordon Dundas. Okay, Amy, this is a tricky one. Born 12th of August 1971. He's an American former professional tennis player. His professional career began in 1988. He ended his career in 2002 at the US Open, where he defeated his longtime rival, Andre Agassi. He won 14 Grand Slam singles during his career. What is his name?
Pete.
Something? Does your friend know? Pete?
No, Pete, no.
Oh, Gordon, you can come in and steal it.
Sampras.
Pete Sampras. It's 3-1. 3-1 to Pete Sampras. Back to Gordon Dundas. Potassium nitrate, especially as a component of gunpowder, was called nitrate of potash. It's also been called Chinese salt or Chinese snow. What am I talking about? One word. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. Pete's in there somewhere. What can it be? Amy, can you steal it?
Senga.
Senga.
I can't even remember how the first start of the question.
Potassium nitrate's also called at home saltpeter. Saltpeter. So it's 3-1. Yes, it is. Over to Amy. Amy, a cathedral city in Cambridgeshire, famous for its railway, is also a town in Hillsborough County, New Hampshire, United States.
I've not got a clue. Senga.
Peterborough is the correct answer. Peterborough, 3-2. Gordon, this could put you out of touch. He's often credited as the greatest comedian of all time. He became famous for the Pink Panther movies. What is his name?
Peter.
Yes.
Piper. No.
Peter Piper, could it be a steal? No, it's Peter Sellers. Which means Gordon Dundas had just scraped in this Peat Challenge, the first and possibly the last competition of its type on Whisky Unscripted. So from the house, yes?
And the funny thing about it, I went to the pizzeria restaurant. It was very good. And the other funny thing about it is that we're doing a quiz about peat in a distillery that has never used peat.
That's right. We are the complete antithesis to peat. So we're always fascinated by it, but we'll never use it. So, great. Let's go, Gordon. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, your friend, Senga. I've now managed to lose Gordon Dundas. He's up to too much whiskey in this place. So I'm on my own. I've headed down to the warehouses. I've just bumped into my good friend who, if you watched the Facebook Live events that Glengoyne did, Blair from the warehouse team, your warehouse manager, Blair, you were on drinking, talking about the whiskies that night.
Yep, having some good drams.
What was that again we were drinking, do you remember?
There was a few really good casks. We had a bourbon barrel, we had a refill hogshead, and of course the cask that won was the Madeira cask.
Madeira cask, that's it. So we're tasting and sampling all these, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah,
Sure it was.
Have to go back and watch it again. Still up there on YouTube.
As indeed, go and watch it.
Facebook Live, Glengoyne. Blair, sorry, I know you're very busy. You're writing stuff down here. We're in the... Where are we?
We're in the filling store just now, so warehouse 2, down in the warehousing, and just now you can see in there the guys are doing a filling just now.
Right.
So it's a really small filling today. We've only got about 54 hogsheads to fill, and then they're going straight into the warehousing.
So the spirit coming across from the stillhouse can vary in quantity, is that right?
It can, absolutely, depending on how long we let it build up for in the tanks. It depends on how big a filling we do.
Now, we'll maybe try and put a photograph. I'll take one from outside in case Robbie's listening. But there's white enders and there's red enders. What's the difference between these hogsheads I'm looking at?
So a white end basically tells us that it's a refill cask. When it's got a red end on it, it means that the bottling plant have said that that's a really good cask. It's had a really good colour to it. So we select it as red, so it's one to watch basically.
Right. So both refills.
Yes,
basically.
both refills, just the reds. One was, they said it was a really good cask.
Right, I've not been down here for a while. There's a new roof on those warehouses. Now, how many warehouses? We've 8 warehouses here, is that right?
We have four modern ones, 2 old ones, and then we have the number 1 warehouse, which has the beautiful display up the road.
Yeah. But there's a warehouse 8, is that right?
Yes, that's the one that just got its new roof replaced.
Right, okay, so how long did that take?
It only took maybe about 4 or 5 weeks, give or take.
So the roof is okay, but how long did it take to get the stuff out?
The stuff out took a wee bit longer than that.
So that's the job, is it? Moving everything out?
That's it, moving it in and then moving it out again.
Is it moved in yet?
No, it's completely empty. I'll let you see in there in a few seconds, and it's ready for the first cast to go on it pretty soon.
And that's the warehouses. We can only go 3 high.
Yep.
What's the difficulty there? So it's 3 high, but you've got big long racks to put it on.
Well, that's it. In the traditional Dunnage warehouses, it's 3 high because back in the day, that's how high you could lift them. That's basically why it's taken down to 3. And yeah, it's a bit of a labour-intensive job for that, as opposed to like the more modern things, which is like racking and tiering, where you're using a forklift, you know.
Yeah. What's your favourite? What's your preferred warehousing?
Dunnage. Traditional.
Yeah. The whisky. That's where the best stuff is kept, is that right? Dunnage warehouses?
That's it. I mean, there's lots of different theories. They say that in a Dunnage warehouse it will mature better because of the damp, cold atmosphere. It's very traditional. So they say the best stuff comes from there, yeah.
Right, Blair, finally I'm going to let you go. You're at a computer here just now. What's the main sort of thing you have to do at the job? And what is your official title? But what keeps you occupied from morning to night and during the week? What's the main job?
Keeping those guys busy.
We're looking through a glass at these guys.
Standing still. Official title would be warehouse team leader, and basically that just entails everything that's to do with the spirit coming from the still house. That's putting into casks, that's going into tankers and getting stowed away in the warehouses. And that's the same for when John Glass, like our master blender, he'll maybe request some casks, so we need to dig them out, send them through to him, and he can bottle them.
Right. So he asks for samples first, and then he'll say,
Yep.
I want that cask, that cask, that cask, and that's what makes up the whiskey.
Yeah. It's a fun day getting samples as well.
Let's go and find them. There's a box around here somewhere.
Absolutely.
Listen, Blair, I'll let you get back to work because they're not doing too much there.
I'm sure.
Right. Okay.
Okay, thanks very much, Gordon.
Bye.
So, do you want a cask in?
Blair is Blair. What are we doing?
So we're opening up Warehouse 8 just now, so we can see the brand new roof that's on. It's a bit of a different perspective since it's completely empty.
That is, I don't know if I've seen it. These
a
warehouses
completely
have been a
empty
few
one.
times, but
Yep.
completely empty.
That's it. When I first started as a warehouseman back in the day, only what was that, 3 years ago? Number 7 was getting emptied to get its new roof.
Wow.
And then over the piece we've been filling that slowly back up, so that's now full. So then we started on this one. So you can see it just now. It's nice and empty.
I have never seen that. Yeah, that is amazing. And beside me is all these. What do you call these? These are the bits of wood that they sit on.
That's it. That's the racks that we put them on. So they'll sit on the floor, cast on top of that, then the beams on top of that, and then they would just build it up until you get up to either 3 high for huggies or 2 high for butts.
How many casks can fit in here?
Well, Dunnage Warehouse, and it's obviously a lot less than your modern stuff. So in each of the Dunnage ones, we'll maybe only get about 2,500, give or take. Whereas up in the bigger ones, you can get up more kind of like 4,000. It's almost double.
Wow.
You know.
And what I quite like about it, it's still the old ironworks. It's a new roof, but it's old brick and all that. It's not fancy. It's just a nice, still kept its
very traditional,
traditional.
very classy. You'll probably know the date that these were built. It's probably exactly the same since then.
Yeah.
You know, as you say, new roof that will probably outlast me, but these walls have outlasted a lot of people.
That's right. I think the lease for the lands, I think we talked about this, was the same year that Tamdhu opened up in 1897.
Yep.
So you're looking at well over 100 years of history here. And the roof can't have been changed that often.
No, not often. I think it's been changed once before this one, in that time span. And again, this one should last a lot longer than that one. So
it's amazing. This is where the magic happens, Blair.
Absolutely. Even in an empty warehouse, when you're walking in, you do get that kind of feeling of it. You know, the casks aren't there, but when you're walking in, you see it. It's quite magical to me anyway.
It's just amazing. Thank you just so much for showing it. And I'll
Not at all.
stand back there, take a few photographs, and you can have a wee look in our Facebook page and see this. And you'll never probably see this again.
Never.
Like this.
No, hopefully not. It's a lot of work to undo it.
And how long, basically, have you put aside to fill this?
It depends how fast we fill them, to be honest.
Right.
How fast we get the casks in, so it's not really a time scale. We're roughly about the same as next door, which is about maybe a year and a half, give or take, and it's completely full.
Wow,
So
wow, that's
take it from there.
take it from there. It's not a quick process, is it?
Not at all.
Right.
We're unhurried.
And by the way, just I come in and you were battering a cask there.
Yep.
What was going on next door in the filling store?
It was a bit of a leaky cask. Unfortunately, we don't like to see that. All it was one of the hoops was a little bit loose. So you get your driver and your hammer, you batter down the hoops, and that tightens everything up, so it stopped it leaking. Hopefully,
That's sort of one of the hazards I would imagine of this business.
That's
Is the leaky cask is
the leaky cask, the thing of doom. We don't get it much often,
Right.
But when you do hear about it, obviously it's not nice to see, but it's almost part and parcel.
Yeah, of course. Just managed to persuade Blair to open up another warehouse. Where are we, Blair? We cannot get enough of this.
So this is Warehouse 7. So again, the second one of our traditional warehouses. Had its roof done and now we've refilled it. So as you can see, very different to next door. This one's full at the moment, so there's lots of really nice stuff kicking about in here.
It does look really. We just talked earlier on in the show about Gordon MacPhail and their warehousing and the 80-year-olds, but there's some old whiskies here. How far do some of them go back?
Well, the oldest one we have in this warehouse just now is a 1972, so that'll be coming up on 50, won't it? So I'm sure that'll be a nice dram.
That will
Absolutely.
be a very nice dram.
Yep.
Any other highlights in here? And there's some people I can see that have got their own casks. We have a cask owning.
Absolutely, we do have that. So you can see the ones at the front. They've got all their different names on them. So they're people who own their own personal casks of Glengoyne.
And that stopped, didn't
That's
it? That was so
unfortunately,
popular.
yes.
It stopped.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But that's great to see. How lucky to have your own cask sitting
Absolutely,
here.
they're still here, and they get a sample of it every year to see how it's getting on, to watch its journey. But when you're looking around, you can see lots of different ones. You can see maybe some Palo Cortado casks.
Ah, yeah,
Really,
we'll just
really
try
nice.
one up the shop.
Absolutely. You can see behind us here, these are some of the port pipes. We actually had another
right.
one of those in the tasting that
That's
we've
right.
done.
We were trying to work out what we were tasting.
Which one?
It was so successful. We tasted so many. We were a wee bit confused, but that's a port pipe, so they're slightly longer.
Absolutely. It's more of a kind of cigar shape, as you can see. Really, really big, but quite difficult to fit in places. So that's why they're sitting
Is
there.
that some more difficult than others to handle?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you can see there, if I'm bending down, the span of that's about the span of my arms.
Yeah.
You know, so it's quite
Massive.
hard to handle.
And they're about 700 litres, the port pipes.
Yeah,
roughly.
about 600, 650.
Okay.
Give or take. So they're the biggest we have. You're legally allowed,
Yep,
basically,
yep,
So they're really, really nice. Again, looking around, those ones there, there's some Rioja casks, some wine casks.
Oh, yes.
So they'd have a nice different kind of vibe on them. And again, our classic sherry cask that we've got.
Yeah, of course, that's
Glengoyne.
what we're well known for,
That's
the
what we're known
Oloroso
for,
sherry. But Rioja's quite
Quite different.
interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, there's a few odds and sods around that are quite interesting. You'd like to see, you know.
And the other thing which I'd love to see, but there is chat about where they are located in the warehousing, because there's some high parts of the roof and there's some low parts of the roof.
Absolutely,
Do
yeah.
you find that makes a difference? Because you're sometimes tasked with coming up with
It
casks,
is.
so you know they phone up
yeah.
you to say we need a single cask.
Yep, and it's a tough job to have to come down and sample them. You know, someone's got to do it. Sorry, it's not you. But, you know,
I can be. Is there a difference where it is situated? Have you got hot spots in the warehouse?
There can be. You know, when you've got a cask sitting below the peak of the roof, it's going to mature differently to one that's right at the valley. You know, right at the low point there, because of the heat will be different. So it'll expand and contract more. So the ones that are getting hotter will mature faster. So you will get slight differences in them. Thankfully, the new roof, it's kind of curtailed that. It's kind of slowed it down a wee bit. It's insulated well. But yeah, I mean, the ones that are buried right in the floor are going to be really, really cool, as opposed to the ones that are on top.
Yes. And I just, I have to ask, the Rosebank. We've talked about Rosebank already. Gordon was there last week. This is an amazing story, bringing it back to life.
Absolutely.
From 1993. That's the youngest whiskey, because it was closed.
Yep.
Have we still got some here?
We do indeed. We've got just a small amount left. We split the stock between ourselves and up at Tamdhu, so we were lucky enough to get some, and some of that's already been taken to be bottled, but we do have a wee parcel just up there left, so still kicking about.
Wow, that's a bit of history there, isn't it?
Absolutely,
It's,
yeah. Careful when we're handling those ones.
Right, brilliant.
Absolutely.
Great, Blair, thank you so much for letting us into Warehouse 7.
No problem. Absolutely. Come on down anytime.
I will. I think I could do a little shift and help you guys.
Absolutely.
I can,
No dramming, but
No, those days are long gone, sadly. It is, when you think about the people that have stood in your shoes and been in these warehouses.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
It must be something to think about, the people your predecessors.
Oh, for sure. I mean, when I first started down here, it was Deke, Derek, the old team leader down here, who retired after 42 years, you know, so 42 years of working in here, the knowledge, the experience that you build up doing that, it's phenomenal.
And he passed it on to people like yourselves.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
He'd got it passed on to him.
Yep,
Sometime
generations
in
past.
the 70s he'd
That's it.
joined here, so yeah, it was right back. So
Yeah, and
it's amazing.
Just as we're walking out the door here, actually, Gordon, on your left-hand side, you can see the original excise office. So that's where the watchman used to sit in there with his wee heater and cup of coffee and just watch every single move that you make, making sure you're not stealing anything or rolling a cask out the door that's not meant to be there.
That's right.
You know, he was always watching you. So that's where he sat.
And called the Watcher.
Called the Watcher. The Watchy.
Watchy.
That's his office.
And now it's just Robbie Hughes that does that from
Far away.
binoculars.
Yep, absolutely.
Brilliant, Blair. Thank you so much. I'm going to try and find Gordon! Where did you go? You missed that great tour there at Dunnage Warehouses.
I went back to that office that had all those samples in it. Fantastic.
Oh, it's fantastic. It is. It's great. Quite enjoyed our trip to Glengoyne, Gordon.
It's been great. It's been great. It's been good to be here. Good to see people touring around again. We've actually got visitors. It's great. It's a lovely day. It's fantastic.
I was going to try and put my neb into them, but I'll let them enjoy their tour at the moment.
Yeah.
Just before we go, Gordon, I want to just trial out for the next episodes my new little game which I'm calling the Play-Offs.
The Play-Offs.
Gordon,
Right, okay.
very quickly, the Play-Offs just to finish. Finale in the Glengoyne. You can hear some cars in the background. I've got people waiting there for the 4 o'clock bus. Gordon, Play-Offs. Who's going to progress out of these two? Ginger ale versus soda.
Oh, soda.
You reckon?
Soda, yeah.
We are talking whiskey and whiskey. It's not
No,
just
soda. Soda. I think soda is going to allow more flavour of the whiskey to come through, but soda.
soda. Okay, Play-Offs for the finale. Cork stopper versus screw cap.
Well, having worked for companies that use both, I'm afraid a cork stopper, the noise it makes when you pull it out of the bottle is always a winner. So cork stopper for me.
And I'm going to I was going to do two, but just for the third one, this is a tricky one. It's the Play-Offs, unchill filtered versus undiluted. Always thinking, ladies and gentlemen, this I knew I'd get them. I've got a whole lot of these.
Unchill filtered.
Ooh, what's the decision there?
Well, I don't think you would ever chill filter a whiskey that's undiluted.
But if you had a whiskey that was unchill filtered and you had one, I see what you mean. So you have tied me up with my own petard, as they say. Brilliant, Gordon. We'll do more of that. And next week I've got my whiskey book at bedtime. No time to get into that.
Whiskey book at bedtime.
Whiskey book at bedtime. That's all coming up on episode 3, series 4 of Whiskey Unscripted. Gordon, final words?
I mean, if nothing else, this is a diverse podcast.
Let's call it a mixed bag, but let's go back to the office.
Yeah, right.
Thank you to Blair and thanks to the team here at Glengoyne for letting us on site.
Fabulous day.
Cheers.
Bye.
Gordon, thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.